I don't know where to start that conversation about the global market. I think we know it was always going to be at our front doorstep. I didn't know it was going to be this aggressive. What are your thoughts, if you had any?
I think that what we can know for certain is that there will always be times of uncertainty. What I will say is I think instead of being overly concerned, our people are working hard.
There it is.
Right? They're making changes that they need to make in their business models. It's making those adjustments so that they can stay afloat.
Welcome to United We Podcast, the official podcast of the United Corpus Christi Chamber of Commerce, the only chamber podcast in South Texas. I'm your host, Al Ariola Jr., and we're here to explore the latest business insights, community stories, and opportunities shaping the coastal bend. Whether you're a business owner or just passionate about our region, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, Chamber family and friends, to United We Podcast. Today we are joined by our chair of the board, Miss Cindy Barrera. Thank you for joining us, Cindy.
Good morning. Happy Monday morning.
Happy Monday. We'll have this out. We'll see you on Wednesday, the audience, but I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to start by thanking you for your time as our board chair and all your commitment to our organization. How do you think it's going so far?
It has been such an exciting and I think really momentous start to the year. You and I talked extensively along with the staff and the board of what we envision for this year. And I think we're firing at all cylinders and we're exceeding my expectations in a lot of ways. And so I feel really great about the start to the year.
Well, that's good to know. And, you know, we started the year with a retreat, and a lot of the themes that I think we are putting into action was, I guess, communication was big. It was making sure not only that the membership is connected and we're communicating to them well, but I would say maybe even the general public too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the engagement all around has been phenomenal. I think our board, every year we challenge them to step up and to commit at a larger level. They've done so. Our ambassadors, God, they're just doing such a phenomenal job. The staff, so fully engaged, even the interns are bringing so much energy. Our membership is showing up at events, and I think the public is just engaging at a new level this year as well.
And in the advocacy space, we've taken that hyper seriously. And we have a legislative session that's been going on. Water has been something we keep on talking about. I think we're going to keep on talking about it. But how do you feel? How do you feel we're doing in that spaces too?
Well, I wish I had something really to compare it to. As you know, this year, CV to ATX was my first time attending, but I just have to say that it was just such a great turnout. The energy that was there, you could just tell that the collaboration between the organizations from Visit Corpus Christi to the EDC and the Chamber, everything that I heard from people who had attended many times before this year really raised the bar. And so that was exciting.
It was. And we go further together, right? And so the EDC, VCC, all that partnership, everybody was also, contributing where they could and where it made sense. VCC really on the reception night, and that was a big night. Certainly our department here, our government affairs, really monitoring our policies and
and our electeds. Our electeds, they were so wonderful. They were great hosts. They were, of course, at the reception, but I think the time that they took to spend with us, that's what we were there for. And so it was very rewarding to have their engagement and their buy-in, and the collaboration hasn't stopped ever since.
You're right. And yeah, we're putting the band back together for a DC trip. Audience, I wanted to encourage you to check that out. We'll be making a more formal announcement about our trip and how you can get engaged and involved in those efforts. Well, so let's see. Big thing that is coming around the corner for us is Lemonade Day, which you are very, very passionate about. You've also shared some of your, personal, I guess, reflections on why you feel this program is important as a young Hispanic woman, and how, I guess, you came to understand more and more financial literacy itself. Can you share your story, I guess, with the crowd a little bit?
Yeah, and I know that we touched on this last year. So I think in a nutshell, it's just that, it wasn't something that was really emphasized for myself as a, young girl in my household.
Sure.
The emphasis was truly on my brothers understanding, because they were going to be the future providers in their homes. Well, little did my dad know, but it really fueled curiosity, and through hard lessons learned as well, it just became something that ended up turning into a career for me. And so empowering all people, but especially young women, to take control of their finances. And we do that through Lemonade Day, right? We start to set the foundation of financial skills, savings, just understanding even terminology so people don't feel so overwhelmed or disconnected from
Yeah.
those topics as they grow up. It's really important. And everybody who we have talked to over the last year engaging in Lemonade Day, they see the value. We have so many more community partners that are stepping up. They see the value in the financial literacy skills, but also the entrepreneurship. Talking about these kids and the amazing job that they do. This is our future workforce, right? So getting behind them and showing them that they have a community that's willing to support them through Lemonade Day. And there's so many ways to do that, which I'm sure we're going to touch on as well. But there is no one that is exempt from needing to have the skill set of being able to manage their financial situation. And so I think it's easy for people to want to get on board. The best thing for me was seeing the kids so engaged, and they're like sponges. They soak it all in. They ask great questions. One of the things that we didn't necessarily expect to be a benefit is that the parents who are there with them, I mean, we saw the parents learning, right? I had a couple of parents share that this was information that they wish they had learned when they were younger. And so we just see that this trickles down. It doesn't stop with a child that's participating. It becomes kind of a family, project, and there's just so many rewards that will be reaped. And the way I see it, it's for generations to come.
Right, and to your point too, it takes a village, so to speak,
Yeah,
to put this
absolutely.
together. And we're already at a 500 mark for registration, which is what we hit last year, and we have another 2 months ago. So really do encourage the audience, if you have some little kiddos, get them registered. There's an online curriculum that is so easy to use on your digital phones or your iPads.
Yeah.
We also do have printed materials if you need those or you prefer those. And so full curriculum that is really engaging, really interactive, and encourage the audience to really check that out. But there are some other calls to action beyond the kids getting registered, like you said, is our member businesses. We're kind of calling out to you, if you're listening, host a stand for these kids. Some of them are looking for a safe place that has foot traffic and somewhere where they can take advantage of that. And so if you're one of those, we've had several in the past. Like last year, Bob and Beck, they hosted like 3 different lemonade stands there.
Yeah, they're a wonderful partner.
And it became like a little, mini activation community event. And so I want to thank all those members that have been doing that for over the years. And again, if we can encourage some new ones, we'd love to have you. We have a lot more kids.
Yeah, a lot of kids, which means that the cost of this program, of course, is increasing to the chamber. We absorb that cost. Part of that is through sponsorships. And so I'm very proud that Frost, again,
you
is the
for
main
that.
squeeze sponsor.
Yeah.
This is something that's so important to us. And I challenge for businesses, to get involved. If they can, join us at the giving level. We've got sponsorship levels that are, as low as $500. But those who can't necessarily be a sponsor, they can support one child to participate in the program for $25.
Yep.
That gets them all the materials. It gets them a shirt. It gets them some goodies, some swag for Lemonade Day. And then the great part is that these children are able to participate regardless of what their financial situation is. We want anybody who wants to participate. We want them to have the ability to do so. And so the $25 certainly gets the kids enrolled, and then they get to keep every dollar that they make.
Right.
So we don't take any of that back from them. So it's a learning opportunity, but they also benefit. And as part of the program, as you know, Al, one of the rewarding things is that we encourage through the lessons that there's more to just spending the money they make, right? We're teaching them about the importance of saving part of it and also giving back. So I don't remember the exact amount, but the impact of the money that was given back to nonprofit organizations in our community last year was pretty substantial. It was several $1,000s.
And I wish I knew the dollar amount too, but I remember if the stat was, I think, close to 30%. They all, like if the cumulative total of all the kids, they gave back about 30% of their income to nonprofits.
Close to a third. So, and it was in the thousands of dollars, several thousand. So it just really, those are the kinds of, adults that we want to have in our community, right?
Right.
That understand the importance of not just making and spending money, but saving money, and then also giving back to the community where we live and work. And so it's just really special to see through this program that they get it. They know how important that is.
Yeah, and you're nailing it that about the give back component, and I think in many ways maybe we're telling our story a lot better. That this is a give back program. That
Right.
I like the way you worded it too. It's almost like that's planting that seed for future giving, and these kids are going to be more wired in that culture. And as it is, I think we all know this. Corpus Christi, the Coastal Bend, is a very giving, generous
absolutely.
place, and if you really have the asks put together, they're going to support you. And so I think that's our ask to the audience. If we're on all the easy digital platforms to pay us and to give a small donation, and it is as small as 25 would get a kid everything they need with respect to the purchases we make. And so we would certainly appreciate that support. Yeah.
Right. And the last thing I'll mention is that Lemonade Day Coastal Bend is actually on June 20th and 21st. So if for some reason, there may be people that can't give at the $25 level, and that's okay, but go buy a cup of lemonade somewhere.
Yeah.
There will be stands all across the Coastal Bend on the 20th and 21st. So we encourage people to get out and support these kids, allow them to show their excellent customer service skills, because that's part of the lessons as well. These kids will have marketed their stands and have worked hard on even building their stands in many cases. And so between now and then, there's still lots of opportunities to engage and get involved. But just know that on June 20th and 21st, we will have stands all across the Coastal Bend that people can get out and consume a lot of lemonade that day.
Yeah, and check out our website. You can Google it, Lemonade Day Coastal Bend, but it's lemonadeday.org/Coastal Bend. And you'll have on the map, you can see where all these kiddos are placing their stands, putting it on the map. And again, to our audience, a call to action to our student participants is just make sure that you get your curriculum and all your work done by July 30th, right? July 30th, to be registered for a chance to win the national prizes and our local prizes that we're going to be giving away. So again, audience, check that out. Check out lemonadeday.org and get yourself registered. While we still have you, Cindy, because we're going to probably have you on the show again, our digital content coordinator has put together a pretty fun idea about dress code decoded, and just talking.
Wow.
Just
Okay,
talking about.
that sounds like
we're,
fun.
We're going to take this bit for a ride, and so to the audience, I'm about to show our chairwoman a picture. Oh, okay, a picture
Okay.
of 80s. What am I supposed to describe this? Would you say that this is appropriate for work?
So I'm a big fan of professional attire, and I kind of wish I was in the workplace in the 80s, because I love me a good pair of shoulder pads. So I would say absolutely. I would totally rock that.
A 2000s outfit here. Would this be appropriate for work?
I'm gonna have to pass on this, and I think there may be some workplaces where that might be appropriate, but I would say in a professional setting, office setting, whether the chamber, Frost Bank, I would have to say that the flip flops are definitely a no go for me.
Yeah, it's Corpus Christi thing with flip flops. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Blake Lively. It ends with us here. So is this an appropriate outfit for work?
This is controversial all around. I think that I don't have my glasses on, but is she showing a little belly there?
I don't know what it is. But this is
Or is that a belt? I don't know. I think that the patterns are a little loud. Again, I think there's some places where, some jobs where that may be great. I'm just going to say that if that is her midriff exposed, I'm going to have to pass on that. I think the wild colors sometimes can be a little distracting in the workplace as well.
Okay, the Gen Z office
Oh, my.
siren trend. Apparently, this is the thing. This is the
Okay.
quote unquote office siren.
Okay.
Appropriate?
I've never
I mean,
been
I
an
would say the
office
one.
siren.
I guess the one on the far right.
I think
ain't
the
so
one on the
bad.
far right, yeah.
I guess they're not all so bad, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm just going to say that as a rule of thumb, I've always told women who I've mentored to dress for the job that they want, not the job they have.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it depends what job you're going for, but I would have to pass on the first two for sure.
Or
yeah.
or the job you want to keep, right? Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, I don't even know how this makes it, but business casual runway fashion. It's like shorts over a coat, I guess.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a no. For me.
That's a no. And then
Oh, my.
The Sam Smith bubble outfit. Yeah, no, this is not going to be appropriate for
Yeah,
it.
I certainly don't think so. But yeah, I mean,
Okay. Well, and so
that was fun.
Well, and you brought up your fashion. How would you quantify yours if you would give it a name? What would you call your fashion sense?
I try to be a little bit more classic
Yeah.
in what I wear. I don't usually wear bold colors. If I do, I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone. I think neutrals have always been my go-to, primarily because, when I started in my career in the financial services industry, I was in my early 20s. And it was already very hard as a woman to be taken seriously.
I bet.
A young, a female, to be at that age. I wanted to always appear to be professional. And I didn't want my clothes to be a distraction.
Sure.
And so I've always dressed in a manner that represented my professionalism, that I could be taken seriously, that I could be trusted and respected in my role. And so I think that as a rule of thumb, I mean, in our audience, there's so many different careers.
of
Not
course.
everybody's in an office setting.
Sure.
But I think that the most important thing that I've shared, because a lot of people say, well, I don't have a lot of money to buy clothes. And I am so proud when I can find something for $7 at Ross. I'm the first to say, hey, I think that cleanliness and that, just looking polished, you don't have to have a lot of money for your clothes to be clean and pressed and, just to look polished, I think is the most important thing. And so, I really think that that's an area where from one generation to the next, it's very interesting, the shifts in trends. And, I've never been one to really lean into trends. That's why I use the word classic is I try to buy things that I'm going to be able to wear for years.
Yeah.
Now, granted, as sizes change, sometimes that doesn't always work out. But no, I mean, I think that, being able to interchange, articles of clothing and that kind of thing, it's just such an easy way to have a professional and sharp wardrobe.
Yeah, I agree. And classic too. I guess if I had a sense of what I appreciate is, or era, I guess it would have been like those 60s, the 70s, that Mad Men era where there was really, clean, sophisticated.
We need to get you a pair of Stacey Adams then.
Maybe not that far. But I have my tennies on. No, yeah, I agree with you. Do you have a favorite era yourself? Like, if you could do it all over again?
The 80s were so much fun. And of course, I was a little girl going through the 80s. I would say probably the 20s, I think, are very fascinating to me. When I look back at the clothes, I just think, wow, I missed my moment here. Like, I really am drawn to that era. Not the best economy at that time, but the clothes were fabulous. But yeah, no, I think that just remaining a classic.
This could segue. You brought up the economy, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds of where we are economically as a country, and fear and concerns, and the markets, and conversations about tariffs and the way those have been going.
Mm-hmm.
The membership doesn't seem as alarmed as I was thinking they might. I think certainly people are worried about their 401ks and things like that, but I don't know where to start that conversation about the global market. I think we know it was always going to be at our front doorstep. I didn't know it was going to be this aggressive. What are your thoughts, if you had any?
I think that what we can know for certain is that there will always be times of uncertainty.
That's for certain.
That is a given.
Yeah.
And regardless of what time frame you look back on, there have been challenges.
Mm-hmm.
There have been world wars. There have been financial crisis. One after another. COVID was completely unexpected, and what we're experiencing now is really not much different. What I will tell you is that our community is resilient. We have incredibly hardworking membership, business owners, companies that prioritize, what their people. They prioritize taking care of clients. And yes, these cycles can be very impactful. But as it relates to investments, and you mentioned 401k plans, I think not being impulsive and making big decisions. It's very easy to get emotional about money, and we touched on this when we did this podcast previously. But really having a disciplined process—that's probably the hardest. We see the value of our 401ks going down, and we think we can stop the bleeding if we sell everything. what we miss out on is when, the tide turns,
Yeah.
we miss out on the upside. And so, I think just really, if you don't have a plan or you don't know what the plan should be, finding a trusted financial partner to hold your hand through that process. This type of environment also creates a lot of opportunity for those who maybe have not entered the market or
Yeah.
haven't started. And it's everything from the financial markets, real estate. We're seeing it across the board. There's opportunities that are present, and no one has a crystal globe to time what's going to happen. So I think that the at least the stock market and even the real estate market has shown over time that it pays off to be invested. And so I think as people are maybe tightening their budgets, prioritizing the savings is going to be all that much more important, and not giving up on financial goals, just staying locked into those. And yeah, there will be some maybe tweaks that need to be made to people's budgets. I think for business owners, there may be more challenges ahead. I think we're closer to a 60-day clock on tariffs being
Right.
implemented. So, times will change, but those uncertainties.
And that might not
will
even
always
be the
there.
case in 60 days, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
My point is just that there is always uncertainty.
Yeah.
And so we need to take advantage of times when the economy is doing well. But in tougher times, again, opportunities are always present. And so the resiliency of our economy has always been pretty fascinating and impressive to me.
Yeah, and I think that to touch on what you said about our community being very resilient, and when I mentioned maybe there's not as much angst as you see maybe the nation over, is I don't want to say we're pushing through, or like the economics of our situation are I guess more desirable than maybe some other parts of the country, but yeah, no, certainly some interesting
I think
times.
we probably lag a little bit, but what I will say is I think instead of being overly concerned, our people are working hard.
There it is.
Right? They're
Yeah.
making changes that they need to make in their business models or inventory, whatever the case is. I think people are preparing. People are certainly not sitting back waiting to see what happens, but it's making those adjustments so that they can stay afloat.
And you mentioned COVID, because even us as a chamber, that just rocked everyone's world to say we just can't keep doing business the way we do business.
Right.
And so it's like you learn to pivot. It's almost like we're ready for this. I don't want to say that we welcome it, certainly not, but it's almost like, okay, if we have to pivot, we pivot, and we'll keep going. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't really want to end on that note, but I think it was important to share our perspective on that. And again, our business members or the general public over, if you're listening and there's some concerns regarding these spaces, please contact your chamber, and we're ready
right.
to learn and listen more and more. So
Well, let me end with this. Let me just say, you asked about how I think things are going so far, and I've shared that. Let me just talk about kind of our vision for the rest of the year. It's to continue the same momentum that we have built. It is to keep our members engaged. I want to congratulate you and the staff. Y'all are
Thank
doing
you.
such a wonderful job, working so hard. That doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you.
I mentioned our ambassadors earlier, and I just have to give another shout out to them because they are really out there connecting with our current members. They're delivering plaques. They are so active at our ribbon cutting events, and that really means a lot to have their support, their engagement. And again, our board is working hard behind the scenes, making sure that the programs that the chamber offers, that we're able to continue those. We're increasing efforts in other areas. And we've got lots of great events lined up for the rest of the year that I'm very excited about. We've got some state ofs around the corner, and then, of course, some of our smaller networking events that have been very successful. I think we had some record participation,
100
sold-out breakfast,
Yeah, 100
right?
people joined us. Kiko's was jam-packed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to find a bigger spot soon.
Yeah. And very thankful to Lynn Allison for her update on the bridge. So we've got Conquer the Coast, so many great things coming up. And so I hope that, well, I'm going to take back the word hope, but hope is not a strategy. I'll just say that I'm very pleased with how the year has gone, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the year. And again, it takes the whole village to make this a success. And as you mentioned, for those who are looking for resources, have questions about business, we may not be the ones that can solve all the problems, but we are a collaborator like anyone else that I know. And so we can certainly connect our members to other partners, and that's what we're here for.
Yes,
So
ma'am. No, and that's a great way to end this one.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the audience, be sure to check out our website, unitedcorpuschristi.org. See the different spaces you can get engaged in our collaborate space, our advocate space, and our grow. And so, hope you'll get involved more in your organization. And we thank you for listening today. We will see you again next time.